Alright guys, in this video we're going to learn how to find the missing side length using trig ratios. Alright, in example 1 we have to find the missing length, so finding the value of x. So if you look at your triangle, you're given a 17, a 31 degrees inside of the triangle, so this angle right here is 31 degrees, and the value of this length, which is x. Before we even try to find the value of x, make sure that your TI-84, its mode is in degrees. Okay, that's the number one thing you want to make sure that your calculator's in. You don't want to be in radians. So in order for us to find that missing length, we need to use a trig function. We cannot use the Pythagorean theorem because we don't know anything about this hypotenuse. In order for us to use the Pythagorean theorem to find a length of the side, we need at least two sides of a triangle. We only have one, and then we got to find the other one. And we know nothing about the hypotenuse. So, using trig, we have to use our reference angle, and to decide where your reference angle is, well, what angle is given to you? We have the right angle, and then we have the 31 degrees. We never use the right angle as a reference angle, so we're going to put our eyeball right on the 31 degrees. So right now our eyeball is looking at the triangle, and let's next write down SOHCAHTOA as a guide. Okay? So like I said earlier, we have the length of 17 and we have the length of x. That's the information that we are given in the triangle regarding the sides. We know the hypotenuse is across from the right angle, but we know nothing about it. We just can say that's the hypotenuse. Okay? So then from the eyeball, if you go across through the triangle to the other side, we have our opposite side and we have our adjacent side that's right next to it. So because we know nothing about the hypotenuse, other than the fact that it's the hypotenuse, we go to SOHCAHTOA and decide which trig function we have to use. Because we know nothing about the hypotenuse, we cannot use sine or cosine in for our trig ratio. So we're going to have to use TOA. So we have the tangent, and now instead of writing down the angle that you used to write in like a letter that represents the label of the angle, you're going to write down the actual measurement. So the tangent of 31 degrees equals opposite over adjacent. Okay? So now you substitute what you know. So it's the tangent of 31. It's not tangent times 31, tangent of 31 equals 17 divided by x. Okay? Now you solve for the value of x. So since 17 is being divided by x, the first thing we have to do is multiply both sides by x over 1. Okay, that'll 1 out the x on this side, so we gotta multiply both sides by x over 1, and then that'll cancel that out, or not cancel, but 1 it out. So we have x times tangent of 31 equals 17. And now since you have to solve for x, you have to get x all by itself. This reads x times the tangent of 31. It's not x times 31 times tangent, it's a function, so it's tangent of 31. The 31 belongs with the tangent. So, since we're multiplying between x and tangent, we're going to divide both sides by tangent of 31. Okay, notice how we put parentheses because that's what you'd have to do on your calculator. This will 1 out. So then x equals 17. So in your calculator you type in 17 divided by tangent of 31. And you get 28.2928. Okay, so we just figured out what the value of this side length is. Alright, so example 2, we still have to find the missing length. So in this specific question, we have to find the length of A and B. So there's two things going on, but I highly encourage that you select one side to focus on and don't worry about the other one until later. And we have to use trig in order to do so. So let's first write down SOHCAHTOA. And then our reference angle is the angle that's inside the right triangle that isn't the right angle. So the one that's given to us, it's highlighting and saying, look from here. This is where we draw our eye. So we have to draw our eye looking at the triangle, looking through it. Okay? And so let's decide that we want to figure out, let's go with A. Okay? So don't worry about B. We're focused on how to find the value of A. So right now, we know that the hypotenuse is across from the right angle, B, but we can't use two variables in order for us to solve for one of the lengths. We have to use just one of them. So with the information that we're given, our reference angle is 57, so we have the opposite side and we have the adjacent side. We don't know anything about the hypotenuse, so we don't want to use the hypotenuse in this case, especially if we don't know what the adjacent side is. So we're going to use the opposite and the adjacent side to find little a. So the trig function that uses the opposite side and the adjacent side is tangent. So we're going to use the tangent of the reference angle 57 equals 14, which is the opposite side, over the adjacent side, which is a. Okay, so just like the previous example, we're going to solve for a, so we're going to multiply both sides by a over 1. That'll 1 out on the right side. So then we simplify, so we have a times the tangent of 57 equals 14. And now to get a all by itself, we have to do the inverse operation. A times tangent of 57, we have to divide both sides by tangent of 57. Okay? And then in your calculator, you type in 14 divided by tangent of 57, you get 9.0917. So that's A. Once you have two lengths of your right triangle figured out, one option, and I'm going to show you this option, I mean you could use trig again if you'd like to, but once you have two lengths of your right triangle given, you can use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out that third side. We have 1, 2, and we have to find that missing third side. We can use the Pythagorean theorem. So that'll be your C, because that's the hypotenuse. So then we can say C squared is equal to 9.0917 squared plus 14 squared. So simplifying further, 82.6591 plus 196. Add those two together, 278.6591 equals 6 squared. And then take the square root of both sides. That'll give us the length of C. But keep in mind, remember, it's really just B, but we just labeled it C because we know that that's what we use for the Pythagorean theorem. If we take the square root, we get 16.6931. Okay, so we've figured out the values of A and the value of B. Alright, now in example 3, we're going to find a length using the angle of depression. So it says you are at the top of a roller coaster. It should be just one coaster, sorry. 100 feet above the ground. The angle of depression is 44 degrees. About how far do you ride down the hill? So the angle of depression, let's pretend that we're actually riding a roller coaster, so we're at the top. And the angle of depression is formed from the eyesight that you have if you're looking forward, and then the ground that you're standing on, or like the incline of the plane that you're standing on. So from that ground, or from that bottom level to your eyesight, is called the angle of depression. Okay? So then using that, we have to figure out how far down we have to ride the roller coaster. So then this is our ride down, and using our eyesight level, the angle of depression, we can figure out the length from the top of the roller coaster to the very bottom until it goes back up. Okay? So if you look at it, we actually have a right triangle being formed using this roller coaster example. Okay? So we put our eyeball at our reference angle at 44. Okay? We write down SOHCAHTOA just as a reference to see which trig function we have to use. And we know that the hypotenuse is across from the right angle. That's what we're going to have to find. And we're given the opposite side. So of the three trig functions, we need an H and an O together. Looks like we're going to have to use sine. So I'm going to cross off cosine and tangent and set up sine of our reference angle 44 equals 100 over x, which is our hypotenuse. Okay? So just like in the previous examples, because we're dividing 100 by x, we're going to multiply both sides by x over 1. Cross that out. So x times sine of 44 equals 100. Divide both sides by sine of 44, excuse me. And then you get x equals 144.9557 feet. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you guys write down questions if you have any. Thanks.